Dear colleagues, we begin our the briefing in the media center and today Yegor Stadnyi, he's an expert of NGO. He will tell us how to finance higher education. And because the budget was approved and we don't know what innovations, what's new is there, but we needed to move in a correct direction. And about that direction, we will hear about that from Yegor. Thank you. Good morning. After a sleepless night for many, I think that not only MPs didn't sleep, but many were keeping on track what they were voting for, and that was not easy to keep a track and to understand what the Prime Minister was reading. I would call everybody, I would invite everybody to wait until the text they voted for, and they are very important for education. And to see then what they voted for. What I heard, what the Prime Minister told, education could make a easy sigh, because the government and the Parliament decided not to put value-added tax for education services. And there was a discussion here in the Ukraine Crisis Media Center about that should be welcomed, because there's such experience. It's difficult to fight it anywhere in Europe, and that would have a negative influence on the private sector, on schools and higher education, and on higher prices for those who have a contract with universities, and so we should welcome that. But let's wait until we get the text, 1578 draft law, just to have a full confirmation, to have full confidence under the same. But 1577 draft law, which in the first reading suggested to cancel a big number of different social payments, benefits, etc., and that were included in education. What we heard from the Prime Minister, what he read to us, it's great they canceled the idea to pay for the high school. The education law and Article 35, nobody touches that. So full education is free in the high school. And plus, they canceled the idea of to limit different legislations. The legislation of that on higher education, 1577. At the same time, they preserve all the levels of benefits, bonuses for teachers and professors. That's very important. And here, I wanted to say that probably we have to thank to good work of the Committee of the Parliament on Education and the Ministry of Education, because they had a principal position that some things should not be reduced, and because that would close the door to any reform, including payment for the work in schools and also in universities. Even before it became known, before this night, that they would not cut scholarships to students, they will keep them. And here I would like to what Oksana told from this, how it should be. For example, scholarships, that's very easy to speak about. Very briefly, we have a scholarship system with two kinds of scholarships, academic and social. Academic scholarship is provided for B, and about 500,000 students receive it. Of the third and fourth level of accreditation, 40,000 students in the first, and the second 140,000. Every monthly for the state budget, it means that 442 million hryvnia monthly. The new legislation brings new things. how to calculate this scholarship. The number of those who receive that scholarship that will grow, because they will forget about the average mark and will move to the rating system according to the rating, and not less than 2/3 who are paid from the budget, and not more than 3/4. Plus, the new law demands to give that this scholarship should not be less than a minimum salary, and they have to decide when they will approve that under such financial conditions. They will not get such a raise in the near future. At the same time, we need to ask a question: is it efficient? Is such system efficient? Let's look at it in details, because there is academic scholarship, which is by definition should be for achievements during study and for academic achievements, and it should be a motivation for people for students to study well. But that scholarship somehow is only those who are paid from the budget. They have access to it. It's not for those who are on the contract, not corresponding students, and it's everything depends on the circumstances in the group. If there is no competition, then it can happen the situation. The students for C, they will receive that scholarship. But there is a competition, then the people who have A's, they will get it. But nobody knows concretely. And honestly, there's a populistic legislation that 2/3 of those who are paid from the budget should receive that academic scholarship. There is no country in Europe which has that academic scholarship given for achievements, which is a motivation to good, is provided to a very small number of students. As a rule, only top students who compete within themselves with great achievements in science. Some students have publications, scientific publications. Some of them participate in different research programs, and some even have patents or some achievements in civic activity or in art, sports. In any case, it's a very limited number of people. I'll give an example. In Poland, for example, we can compare Ukraine with Poland, more or less, because we have similar history, and in Poland, the academic scholarship for success, it is granted to 10% of the best of top students. You see the difference: 2/3 in Ukraine, and among those who are on the budget, and 10% from all the students in Poland, and that covers even foreigners. In addition to academic scholarship, what else do we have? We have a social scholarship, which is paid to 39,000 students, much less, as you see, than academic scholarship, and which is accessible only for beneficial categories: Chernobyl orphans, half orphans, children of whose parents died in mines, and if they are students in mining faculties. And so we can easily come to a conclusion that we have a replacement of notions as social scholarship as such, which should be like a social assistance. It is given to a small number of students, but an academic scholarship, which turned into a social scholarship a long time ago. It is accessible for the broad number of students. We need to change that approach completely. But what we need to do with the social scholarships? Social scholarships, or it's better to call them social assistance to students. In theory, they are taken as a means of access to higher education. If someone goes to a different city, if they need to cover expenditures for living, food, etc., etc., and so that social assistance allows people to study and not to drop. But in Europe, that social assistance is more focused. What does it mean? it is provided not to beneficial categories of students, but it is given according to the level of income in the family or of that student. Those income levels are divided into there is a certain social levels, and in Poland, for example, the distance for that social distance could be from $50 to $230, and the second aspect, and that social scholarship depends on it to make it more focused, more targeted. That's the cost of living in a certain city, in a concrete city, because there are many universities in Ukraine, and they are in different cities. There is a university in Lukov, and there is a university in Kiev. The cost of living in Lukov and the cost of living in Kiev is different. So in those countries where this social scholarship efficient, targeted, and they include this index of cost of living in different cities. We need to take that experience and we need to introduce it, because, as I told you, in different cities the cost of living is different, and that social assistance should be also different. What should we do for that? As far as I know, the Ministry of Finances and the government declared that we should approach declaring income, general declaring. Otherwise, we will not be able to divide incomes into state levels, and it's very difficult with our culture of declaring. We'll have a big problem. What people will put in into the declarations. So a scholarship and scholarship support doesn't live in vacuum and doesn't exist in vacuum. It depends on general economy and culture in the country. So a lot of effort should be put to make people declare their income, real, true income. The second risk, we have it with those who get benefits, and they bring fraud documents, and there could be fraud declarations, but the same with people on benefits. When they canceled the different efforts of people to get different benefits, and in Kiev-Mogila Academy several years ago, when a lot of students with benefits went to Kiev-Mogila Academy, then the administration spoke to police, and they want everyone who provided those documents that they should go to the public prosecution officer to check whether those were not fake documents. And the result was immediate. People, those who understood that they have faked documents, they called back their documents. So there are different ways how to do it. We should be more efficient in this field, and what makes me happy, the Ministry of Education, now they got what they wanted. They have scholarships, but also they don't hide the fact that there is a need to change the format of scholarships, and that should be done decisively, maybe not in a hurry, maybe gradually, but very decisively. Once again, radical to limit the number of those who get an academic scholarship. It should be higher than 730 hryvnia. It should be 5% of 10% of the best students and all top students, and they should compete with the achievements. But the main support from the budget should be focused on social scholarship. Is like the mean of access to higher education, and that assistance should be scaled. Must have different levels for different needs. It should be more targeted and dependent on income in the family of a student, and on the level of cost of living in different cities where the university is. I have no illusion that these things sound unpopular among students, because Students, they are energetic people, and we need to explain all advantages of the system, and also we need to explain disadvantages of the existing system. This system is like putting butter on bread. We give a little bit, but not all. Whether we need to note, whether they need to note how many of them need, but we hand out those. We have more than 2 million students, and about 640 receive that academic scholarship. We should cancel that practice. And also, it's like an example from a different field, from a different sector, from science, because you know that there are expenditures for science in the state budget.
If we look at how efficiently this money is distributed, there's no secret that the distribution is not on a competitive basis, like in many countries, in Poland, for example, which introduced this competitive distribution. There is an item of expenditures in the budget, and everyone, the Academy of Sciences, different institutions of the Academy of Sciences, or even the collectives of scientists, they can apply and they can get the funding if they win the competition after an expert analysis is done. But we allocate some funding to the Academy of Sciences, to some other sectoral academies of sciences, also to the Ministry of Education. And in this draft budget, that is 10 times less than to the Academy of Sciences. And many forget that besides these, we have 19 ministries and agencies which have an item of expenditures related to scientific research, to support of some researchers. And I can give you an example. The State Committee on TV and Radio Broadcasting of Ukraine has the same item of expenses, and this is 6,357,000 for applied research, information, bibliographical activity, and financial support of the development of scientific infrastructure. I do not know which is the scientific infrastructure of the State Committee on TV and Radio Broadcasting, but besides this one, there are 18 others that have the item which is for scientific research. The total is almost 500 million hryvnias. These 19, besides the Academy of Sciences, the Sectoral Academy of Sciences, and the Ministry of Education, there are 19 more agencies, and all that money, and the total is 4,427,000,000. That's the total fund for science. All that is distributed, fixing without any competition, and then no one cares how the money is allocated, is distributed within the Academy of Sciences or in other sectoral academies. We need to create one fund. There should be one item of expenditures in the state budget, and the distribution should be based on expert analysis and competition approach. That is very difficult to introduce that. It is difficult to find those who will agree to do the expert analysis, who are experts in that. Probably we will need to invite some foreign advisors and use some foreign experience. So summing it up, we have the issue of how to cut down the expenditures, but we do not know how to efficiently distribute all the expenditures that we have. Any questions? I have several questions. First, I have an impression that if we sum up everything you've said, so basically the year is difficult, and basically with the scholarships, what they could have done, they could have limited the access, because we understand that the money is always needed, but this money will not really address the issue of living in the city of Kiev. Why do you believe the Ministry of Education decided not to change anything? I don't think that they decided not to change anything. They're developing several models now. But based on the draft budget, no one will touch this draft budget because of one reason. To introduce the model that I mentioned, we need to the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Social Policy to cooperate efficiently. We don't see such cooperation. The Ministry of Social Policy should define the cost of living in different cities of Ukraine. From the Ministry of Finance, from the tax we need this general declaring of income. And when we have all that done, we can reformat the system of granting scholarships. Because now the most harmful are the hasty steps. We need to do that in a balanced way. We need to address it in a balanced manner. When we decide on which the model should be and how it should be implemented, we will need to work on how to introduce these changes step by step. Because if you tell the students that the system of granting scholarships will change, the students will not perceive it well. When there was a rumor that the scholarship will be cancelled, that was wrong. If we start this discussion in a professional way, then maybe next year we will approach the new system. Do you know, will the norm of financial autonomy be implemented? I forgot to mention that. That is one of the pleasant news of this night. That the draft, there were amendments introduced into 1577, and that allows the university the money that they earn to put not into the system of state treasury and some other money, the money which they receive as the international grants. Usually this money would stay long at the accounts of the treasury, and the payments were delayed. All the deadlines were suffering because of that. Universities were suffering, and the payments were not made in time. Now, this money could be put at the accounts of the state banks, and that is what is in the draft law, and that is now in the draft budget code. No one expected that this will happen because there were plenty of discussions that there will be a big opposition from the Ministry of Finance, because we understand when this money is on the accounts of the treasury, that means that at that time the pensions were paid and so on. I'm sorry for interrupting, but Will the universities be able from the 1st of January to do that physically, so that it doesn't happen like it's happening with the business when it comes to salaries for those who are enrolled into the army and are serving in the ATO, because there's the law, but there's no regulation developed by the Cabinet of Ministers. Are there some regulations already drafted, or is that the direct norm? After the norm becomes effective, or even in advance, I'm not sure whether this will become effective from the 1st of January. Then they need to work with the state financial inspection, because usually the state financial inspection follows the regulatory acts, and their work should be synchronized. Thank you. I do hope that the next press conference will be on that, because that means financial autonomy for higher educational universities. And I hope that the Center for Society Research will be informing us about that.